Got me now? Level's good? All right. Perfect. Well, we'll get started. The aircon I've just turned down again. It keeps turning itself back up to 24, but 24 is offensively warm in this room. So bear with me. If you get a little bit too hot, we'll open the door and see if that can cool it off, but otherwise we'll keep the aircon running. So I'm Nick. You'll have seen my face on the stuff when you signed up to come along. Thank you, firstly, for investing the most important thing you have, and that is time. We can make more money, we can buy new things, we can replace houses if they burn down, but the one thing we never get is more time. So I'm going to work really hard up here to make sure that at the end of today, when you walk out of this room, you've got some great value for the time you've put in, because I see that as the most important thing. So I'll make that promise to you that I'll do everything I can to make sure that you get some value out of this. And if you've got questions, it's really, really great for me if you throw them at me. And I'm happy to be interrupted while stream of thought's going, because that's when the real thing, the question needs the answer at that moment. If you let it sit for too long, sometimes you lose it and you don't actually get the value in the learning. So please interrupt me. I'm really, really happy just to answer questions on the fly. All right, so it would be remiss of me as a video producer telling you about the power of video to do anything other than start this with a video. So bear with me 1 second. Internationally experienced creative production studio, but for many years I was a highly decorated Special Forces officer. My operational experiences taught me some important lessons. Respect everyone. Quitting is never an option. And life is precious, and tomorrow isn't a guarantee. Now I do whatever it takes to get the shot, to tell your story. Hi, I'm Nick, the creative director and founder of Shot Imagery. We believe that a great film or photograph is one that conveys a message, touches the heart, and leaves your audience changed for how you see it. From the Arctic to the Antarctic, across all 7 continents, there is nowhere we haven't been to capture a story. We use the power of visual storytelling to engage your audience through emotion and connect you to your customers. Before we take a camera from our bag, we'll ensure we understand your business and your goals to make sure your story is told with passion. So I'll just give you a little bit of background about why I think video is so important, how we got into video, because it will start to help you understand the storytelling component that I'm going to give you through today. You saw on there my background was in the military. I spent 12 years, most of that time in Special Forces, and it was actually the Army that taught me to be a photographer initially. So you're like, that sounds a little bit strange. But I was a reconnaissance sniper, and we used the cameras as a tool for confirming that the target was who we were supposed to be after. We'd send that photo back. I'm trying to keep this as polite as I can. Send the photo back. Someone would say, verify that is the correct target, and we would prosecute that target effectively. But what I learnt was how to use a camera really technically. And that started a passion for me about telling stories with photography. And then as photography developed, people started asking us for video work, and we moved into that, and we realised we had a passion for telling people's stories. The bit that was most important for me was that I deployed a large number of times and I lost a lot of friends. Now this isn't a woe is me story, this is the powerful moment for me, was that I realised that life is really precious and every moment counts. And I realised that the people I deployed with who I lost had powerful stories about who they were, where they'd been and what they'd done. And those stories needed to be told. So that was my passion for storytelling. And then I realised that we could actually really, really help businesses by teaching them how to use video to more effectively engage with their audience. So could I ask a very quick question? I'll ask the negative version of this question. Does anyone in here think they aren't value adding to the world by what they do. Does that make sense in my question? So I'm taking that as you all agree that what you're offering to other people is a good product backed by honesty, it's backed by a genuine trust for what you're doing, and it's backed by a genuine belief that you're actually making the world a better place by helping someone, whether that's giving them a coffee in the morning so that they are a nicer human being all day, or it's actually like changing the way they think or giving them their homes and things. That's really cool, because I'd be really concerned if someone went in here and said, I'm actually selling drugs to babies outside schools. That would make me worried. So we're all on the, and you might think you're helping the world with that. If that's the case, I'm not here to judge, but I'm glad we're all on the same page. Great. So that's really, really an important thing, because I realized that a principle called the law of precession was working in my world, where by helping a business owner learn how to use video to engage their audience, we were passing it down the line, because when they could pass on their product and service better to someone, they were passing it down and helping other people. And it ripples through. When we make life better for the people around us, we change the opportunities for other people. So that if we make their life better, they move better through life, they make better decisions, they have more money, those sorts of things. Their kids get a better education. They make better choices. Those children make better choices. And we've got this like flow. So I think it's a really powerful space to be when we're helping people, and I truly believe that video is a great way to engage your audience at the moment and pass your message on. So that's why I think it's cool. That's why I think video is so powerful, and that's why I am so passionate about telling those stories. We also love to get involved with charities. We just came back from Africa again, where we're helping tell stories about child sacrifice, a disgusting, abhorrent thing that is happening in this world. But what a powerful thing. We told a story, and from that film, we've helped to raise $330,000 to build a rehab centre. So there's the power of a story. So I'm going to talk about stories a bit as we go forward. I just wanted to sow in the back of your mind why story is so important, and to leap way, way, way back for a bit. We sat around campfires and we told stories, and that's how we passed on information. So when we talk video, I really want to talk story underneath it and how that can work in your business. Would that be okay? Awesome. Cool. Okay, so I just want to ground everyone just for a quick second. This is a bit of a scoring thing for yourself, just to work out where you are in your digital content use. And I'm just going to point out 3 places. Down here, you're going to give yourself a 1 or a 2, and you've got a few stock images on your website, and you probably know what YouTube is, but that's about as far as you've gone to digital content. If you're sitting up in the middle, you're a pretty solid practitioner. You know what you're doing in the world. You've got fresh digital, you refresh your platforms about monthly, and you work on a few platforms. Who sort of thinks they're in that kind of space? About monthly they're playing, or a little bit more. Up here, this is the Guru Swami. Like, you levitate when you talk social content. Like, you are all over it. And that's you're working across multiple platforms. You're probably posting daily, but not necessarily. It depends on your audience. So I just want you to sort of think in your mind, where do you sit in terms of your expertise and level of engagement? I'm not going to ask you. Are you down the bottom and you're like really rookie at this and learning? In the middle, you're doing a pretty good job, or are you literally like levitating? You're so good that you can actually send content to Facebook through your mind. Okay. If you can do that, I'll pay for some coaching with you. I need those skills. All right. This may seem a little bit unrelated, but this is just the starting point for today, and it will make sense in a minute. What I'd like you to do is, on your own, score yourself where you think, 1 to 10, how good you are at that, just so you can frame your reference. And the second thing I'd like you to do is write down 3 goals for your business. Now, the reason that's important, and I'm not going to ask you what those goals are again, they're private, but those goals are really, really critical to understanding where you want the business to go. Now, if you don't know where you're going, there's a saying in the army, if you navigate from an unknown point to an unknown point, you're like double lost. So I'm lost when I start and I'm really lost when I get there. If you don't know where you want to be, how are you ever going to develop a plan to get there? And all of this video content that we speak about needs to actually drive to a point, because otherwise we're making noise in an already busy digital world and we're not attracting the right attention from people. Cool? So we'll just take about 2 minutes just to write down some points. Be as detailed or as generalistic as you need to be. I find 1 and 5-year goals are really good, because 1's pretty close and 5's kind of that aspirational level without getting too far away. Some people deep in thought. I said 5 years, bud, not 10.
I don't have that long to go.
Oh, right. Got a lot of things to write down. No problems. Cool. All right. We'll wrap up there and we'll move through, and you'll see why those are important. But now that you've written down, I'll tell you a little bit about some reasons why it might matter. We speak to a lot of businesses about what they're trying to do with their content, and they've got this really clear plan in their mind about what they're going to do, and they're like, I need this. And then when you ask a few questions, you dig a little bit deeper, you realise that that's actually not necessarily what they need. So you're talking to a business and they're about to franchise, and they're saying, well, this is the most important thing, advertising to get more work in. And sometimes you drill a little bit deeper and you realise that the actual value for that business isn't in the advertising because they've already got enough work. It's actually in creating systems they can sell, because the business is worth what you can hand over to the next franchisee. So for them, the video content might actually be all the training manuals for the team that they can hand over. So that's why we ask. So the difference for you as a business is if you want to sell your business next year, you might have different requirements for your content than if you want to hold on to your business till the day you retire and hand it over to your kids. You see how that changes? That's why we ask what's your 1 and 5 year goals. And again, I'm not going to ask you what they are, but it's your starting point. Now you've got a navigating point, you know roughly where you want to go to. Okay. All right. So why video? What is the big deal? We've been telling stories since the dawn of time. Since before written language existed, we used verbal language to tell stories. Who remembers when you see something and it's got a story, do you remember that more accurately than if you sit down and someone just gives you a whole heap of facts? Like, remember that game when you were a kid and I went to the store to buy a blah, and you go through the things, and when it was done in a sort of an order that kind of made sense, you were like, I can just nail that every time, because you know the egg, and you follow on to make a pancake or something. And when you build a story in your head about what the pieces are, it's really easy to recall. But when you just try to remember snippets of information, it disappears out of your mind. That is because our brains are wired and have evolved to hear stories and remember. The native Indigenous Aboriginals of Australia use stories to tell how to move around and find food and water in the Aboriginal outback. And the stories were all linked to things you would see. So it was visual representations and things. So we're hardwired is what I'm telling you. This is the way we are designed to communicate in stories. Video is an awesome way to do that. Why is it such a powerful medium? Well, it's really powerful because it's multimodal. We hear and we see. And when we hear and we see, we actually get deep psychological connections with the imagery and the sound, and we draw a deeper subconscious linkage to those. So if you see footage of falling snow and you hear that, this is a terrible analogy for people on Sunshine Coast. Let me start again. You see a beach scene, you hear the waves crashing. You will link that to a memory, good or bad, and you'll actually feel what you felt when you were there. You'll smell the sea. You'll know what the sand feels like in your toes, that sort of stuff. And that's really, really powerful. And that's what we're going to use to leverage into our audience and make sure that we engage with them and get an emotional connection from them. So super powerful way to do that. So we're going to talk about the power and benefits of video for your business and how you can use them. We're going to do it in a couple of steps. I'm breaking them down into little modules. And the outcome that you get when you walk away from today is I'll have basically taken you from nothing to a story that you could turn into a piece of content yourself. So that's what it is. I want you to be able to walk away and say, this is the stuff that's important to my audience and this is what I should be telling them at the very end. And that's what we'll do for you today. Sound good? All right. So let's watch something again. That's not supposed to scare you. That's a piece of marketing content we created, but it serves a purpose for showing you some of the key facts. So your competitors are... needs a big booming bass piece under the end and like Darth Vader's voice or something. But there were some numbers in there that are really important. One of the most important ones that you would have seen in there is opening of click-through rates for email. So email campaigns were 5 or 6 years ago, they were just like, that was the way to reach people. There was no other marketing way. It was if you weren't doing email campaigns, you were a nobody in the marketing world. Now, open rates are really, really low. Video has been proven to increase those open rates by 2 to 3 times because you're offering people a way to engage with your content that's easy. Now, I'm going to throw the word easy and lazy around a lot. They're interchangeable in this, but it's not lazy in a bad sense. If we're not catering to the requirements of our audience, then we're making life hard. So if we're making life hard for them and they're having to work for the information we're delivering them, who's in the wrong there? Is it us or them for being lazy? I believe, as a person delivering content to someone, it's our obligation to deliver it in the easiest possible method, as quickly as possible, so that they can use it without us knowing what's going on in the rest of their world. So we want to deliver messages easily. And we'll talk about some of the statistics in open rates and what people are doing on toilets, sound on, sound off, all that sort of stuff. But people are consuming our content in places that they weren't traditionally engaging with content. So we need to be aware of how they're using it and make life nice and easy for them. Another one in there, there's who's heard a picture is worth 1,000 words? Yep. So someone sat down and did some maths on it and did a whole heap of tests and came up with 60 seconds of video is worth 1.2 million words. I've read a whole heap of studies on both those. Probably not that much, but the important thing you get is that you get that extra sensory component. So we get sound, we get video combined, and that creates a really powerful emotion. So if I show you a house out in the wilderness, and then there's just that sound, who knows the sound of wind through pine trees? It's pretty relaxing, isn't it? I'll show you that. I'm going to lull you into a nice calm space to sell you a micro home out in the wilderness. If I show you a big grand piano and like someone just playing it beautifully, I'm going to, with the right background of showing all the stage lighting and things, I'm selling you the emotion of being that musical genius and on stage in front of people. Now, the people going to buy that piano are probably going to jam it in the corner of their house and use it once every 6 months. But they're buying the emotional engagement of what they see themselves being. They're seeing themselves in that content. So some really powerful stuff that goes on in video. So let's see how the internet goes here on. As an example, this will boot up in 1 second. If we were living in America, this would be lightning fast. We'd already be finished. So without spending too much time, what do you think this company does?
Makes time capsules.
Yep. Yep. To put where? Great. How much of the text did you actually read? Not much? Your brain cued on to all the things that were happening, and the sound effects in the background give you a whole heap of information. The words are almost unimportant. Again, there's an example we just spoke about. There's a video that's not playing on this one because we're on the Sunshine Coast. What do you think this company does? Just watch about 4 or 5 slides and then tell me. Right. Anyone? What do you think they do?
Make websites.
Yep. Industrial design, branding, product design, they do all of those things. There's no sound on this. You just watched a whole heap of images and your brain at a very subconscious level just built all the information you've gathered over your entire life, just pulled together and gave you an answer in that. Because the text about what they do is actually really small up here. They're an innovative agency and they develop digital and live products. So you see how powerful like video can be, and it's the addition of the motion and things, because that's what we see every day. So a photo is unnatural to us because nothing's out in the wilderness like this. just standing there. So our brain doesn't, except deer, yes. But then the hunter's moving on them. So yeah, you can see how powerful it is as a piece of content because it taps into all of our learnings as a human being on this planet and draws it out. Now, a 3-year-old won't draw the same assumptions as an 80-year-old. And it's all contextual. That's the other thing we need to remember. It's based on our experiences, but that's the powerful thing about video is if we do it right, we can tap into all of that. How's that feel? Good? You see why it's a powerful medium? All right. Let's go past our piano man. So let's talk a little bit about where you should use video. And I think this is the really powerful part of the whole concept because it's not just video. It's what do you want the video to do for your business? And I believe there are a couple of key areas in every business where you can focus it, and we'll talk about what each one is. And then once you get clear on that, you're like, I know exactly in my business which lever I want to pull. I know where I want to fly this plane. And it's really, really powerful when you see it. So let's have a little bit of a chat about some of these. So getting the best return on investment. Now I believe there are 5 impact points that you can apply in your business where video can be tailored to these 5 impact points. This one is a no-brainer, and this is the one everyone wants to start on. They're like, lead generation, I need more leads, I want more leads, I need more people, I need more sales, I need more leads. Lead generation is exactly what it sounds like. It's generating content that drives your audience to engage with you so that you can complete the sale. That whole sale could be completed remotely, or the lead generation could be to get them to talk to a human so you can complete the sale with a human in the process, depending on your business. Your sales workflow will be different depending on the level of investment you ask from that person. So if I want to sell a $1 pen, I can probably do it without ever talking to them. If I want to sell a $1 million house, I'm probably going to need to develop a bit of trust, or a Ferrari. Unless you're really balling, then you just walk in and drop money and don't trust anyone, you just walk out with a Ferrari. But you see what I mean, like your sales process, so the depth of the lead generation funnel and how much automation and human contacts in it varies business by business, but this is the first one most people do. Most startups are working on this because they need the cash flow from lead generation. All right, is lead generation unclear to anyone? Everyone's on board, great. It's the sexy one, everyone loves it. My clicker is getting ahead of itself today. Number 2 is conversion rate. So a lot of people say they need more leads, but what they could actually do is just convert more of the leads they've already got. So you're going, cool story, Nick. What does a video look like that improves my conversion rate? Well, there's a great piece of work that's called a positioning statement, and it's about preparing someone for the conversation or the sale. So it's telling them what they're going to expect. It's telling them about the next steps. It's preparing them. If you've got a deliverable, say you're building houses, let's use that as an example. We're going to draw up the first set of plans. They're going to approve them or not approve them. We'll go into a revision, then we'll do that. We'll get engineering completed, then we'll do foundations, then we'll do frame, lock-up, finishing. Hey, this is going to take a while. If I'm a builder, I'm going to assume that a lot of people just want their house finished. And I know that it takes a long time, but not everyone else is necessarily going to know how long that takes. So I'm going to position them. Mr. and Mrs. Doe, we are so excited to talk to you. We can't wait to tell you about how we can make a beautiful home for you. We'd like to tell you a few important things you need to know. We take payment in a couple of installments at these following stages. Your house will be delivered in phases. The first phase typically takes 4 weeks. Second takes X, blah, blah, blah. Position them. Help them understand. We'll help you find a builder. We'll help you find tiles. And what you're doing is then when you come into that next sales meeting, they've already heard a lot of it. So any big objections have already been addressed. And now so if I tell you something the first time, you're going to go, uh-huh. If you hear it again, you're going to be going, this might actually be a fact. In the military, it's called same source reporting, and you get it from multiple people, but it's all come from the one place. So it sounds really, really credible, but it's actually just a story that's been spread nicely. Now, in the nicest possible way, what I'm saying to you is spread the same story through as many channels as you can so that when your audience engages, they've heard the same message over and over again from multiple channels. Now, the message I'm delivering is trustworthy because I've heard it more than once. So don't use it for evil, people. Do not use this for evil. So that's conversion rates. So the other things we can do is, we'll talk about it as one of the next steps. It's addressing desires and resistances. So everyone has something they want. I'll go down the channel now because I want to just set a couple of concepts. In the Western world, and disagree with me if you want to, my generalised belief is that most people you will talk to, their primary goal in life is to live a healthy, fulfilled life, to raise children and have a safe and comfortable home. Would you agree? Broadly, like really broad picture. That will vary wildly if you go to other countries. But if you agree that that's the path they're going on, so that's their desire. Everything we do along that line has to be helping them, otherwise they're not going to do business with us because we are hindering their desires. So they'll have resistances for all of the things we need to do. We want to address those resistances. So I'll talk about it in more detail, but I just want to sow that seed, because then when you hear it the second time, you'll trust it more. We're talking about that process of them getting that information, taking them on their desire. Now, the important thing is every single person in this room, if I asked you what you do, you will be contributing to people's end desire. You may not, so I always do this wrong, so I go this way, but that's wrong for you. It's this way. This is starting point, this is where we want to finish. Up here at this high point, we've achieved all our life goals. Now, if you're in healthcare, you sell homes to people and things like that, you probably sit right on the line because you're helping keep people healthy, you're delivering their dream home, selling them the car they want or something like that. Everyone else will sit on the line. You just might be a few steps removed. Someone will go, how's a hairdresser helping, deliver dreams? And you go, well, come a few steps back and the hairdresser's not giving haircuts. They're actually creating the persona you want to be. They're delivering the look that makes you who you are, which empowers you to do the thing back on this line, which ultimately gives you the power to do your job, which allows you to get you home. You see how, and I could say the coffee, let's go back to the coffee example. My wife is completely dysfunctional without coffee in the morning. If you don't give her a coffee, she's not a human. Therefore, she can't go and get her hair done so that she can be powerful, so that she can do her job, so that she can create the dreams she wants, so that she can get things. So I'm drawing a pretty long bow, but you can see how every single person you interact with, if you choose to interact with them, is helping you get to where you want to be. Because if they're not, you won't interact with them. So it's an important message just to think, who are my people and what are they doing? But we'll come back to that in a minute, all right? So I've gotten a bit sidetracked because I love that piece of it. All right. Number 3, average dollar sale. You've already got the customer. Which bit's the hardest bit? Is it winning the customer in the first place? Cool, you've already got them. Let's get some more money, time, resources, whatever your transaction's for. And I'm good if you're not earning anything out of this and it's literally you're working for charities or anything. It's whatever the tangible thing that you need from them and then what the exchange is. I'm good that you do that, but let's do more of it once we've already got them. How do we increase average dollar sales? Let's use an example for a business that sells fashion stuff. So someone's come in and bought leggings. You show them content that's relevant to that. Show them the top and the gym accessories that go with that. Increase the average dollar sale. Sales companies do it all the time with electronics goods. They sell you the add-on warranty. So it's get that extra sale. So once you've got the customer, what can you as a business do to offer them value? So you don't want to sell them rubbish. We're still selling people good quality stuff because we trust what we're doing, but we want to get them to buy the stuff that's the add-on that they didn't know they needed, but you can sell them because you're still doing good for them. And that's the important thing in all these messages. You've got to genuinely believe you're delivering value, and when you do, you're okay to keep selling stuff to them because you're helping them on their final journey. So, final journey sounds a bit dramatic, doesn't it? Okay, average dollar sale. So we want them to spend more. Number of transactions. This is how many times they purchase from us in the duration of their lifetime with us. So I've seen some numbers for real estate agents. You might buy a house every 10 to 14 years. It depends what you look at. They might sell with you twice during that time and then they move areas or something like that. So that customer works with you twice. If you sell coffee every day, you might sell coffee every day for 2 years and then they get bored with the location and go somewhere else. So you might get 700 odd sales out of them over the course of the lifetime. You might get one. So if you're selling a Lamborghini, you might see that person once. If you sell a house, you might see them twice, those big ticket items. So what we want to do is we want to invite more transactions, and here's the golden rule. If you're not staying in touch with your audience every 90 days, someone else is. So if you don't invite them back, why would they keep buying from you? But more importantly, if you don't keep telling them what you do, how are they ever going to buy? Like, if they don't know what you do, so they came to you and bought a coffee, did you know I bake scones every day? Would you like a scone as well? Now you're doing average dollar sale, and by inviting them back, you're increasing the number of transactions as well. So some of them cross over. But you see, if you've got to keep telling people who you are, what you do, so they go, I need that. I definitely need that right now. Especially if you're in an environment where you don't your services aren't needed every day. I'll use me as an example. Most people don't need my level of professional video content every day. They don't need it every week. They don't need it every month. They might need it once a year. They might need it once every 3 years. I need to stay front of mind. It's not a pushy sale, but you need to remember me and my brand, because when you do wake up one morning and go, I need some videos done, you go, who is that guy who's always in my Facebook feed? Yeah, that guy. But you see what I mean? It's about staying relevant to increase the number of transactions. And the final one, this is a really fun one because I nerd out on this one, it's margins. It's cool because when your business is humming on all of these and you're just really singing, this is where you start to improve your profitability, because anything that you repeat over and over again, there are two things you can send in to fight for you. A robot, but they're not at that advanced level yet, and Terminator is still a movie, so we don't need them. Or content that repeats over and over again. So if you've got a message that you deliver every single day, hey, it's John here, just calling to tell you that, hey, before you come to your meeting, I've got 16 documents I need you to fill in. I need you to bring in your car, your mum, your dog, 4 copies of your passport, blah, blah, blah. You waste 5 minutes on every phone call. You do 10 phone calls a day, 50 minutes. You do it 5 days a week. You start to draw the line out. What if you can send them a video and save yourself the time? Now, I am not advocating removing human contact where human contact needs to be in the sales process. But what I am suggesting is that this is a really cool temperature check. So you send it to the person who's about to engage with your business in whatever it is. You then follow up with a phone call. John, how are you? I sent you that video just telling you what we need for the meeting. How'd you go? Any questions? Oh, mate, I haven't really watched it. Cool. There's my first warning that this person isn't as engaged in the process as I would like them to be. I can now start to put in place processes to get the sale back on track before it derails. Or, yeah, watch the whole video, love it, I've got everything ready, it's in the bag, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Do you want a coffee while I come in? You're like, great, cool, warm sale. I'm going to need less interaction. We've already got trust and rapport built. So you can see how you can use them as powerful tools. But the best thing about this one is this is the easiest one to work out what the value to your business is. These ones up here, I will be upfront with you, are a little bit harder to track the metrics and see what the value and return on investment is. You can do it, but it's still a little bit. Down here, how many hours a week do I waste on this? What is my hourly rate? What is the cost of the content to solve this problem for me? That makes good business sense. Or, that's a terrible idea, I'll just keep making phone calls. So this is an advanced play normally, like businesses who've got their stuff really working well often use this, but it's really good in the sales process to save human time. Human time is expensive, and we've all got better things we could be doing than repeating a script over and over again. Here's another really great one for businesses who have to be precise with everything they say. Lawyers, medical professionals. There is no variance. Once the video is made, checked and approved, you send it out to the client and they come back and say, well, Jane didn't tell me that. She told me I needed 5 copies of my passport. No, the video says 4. I've checked it. It hasn't been wrong ever, and I know it's approved. I know that the message you got is the message, and there is no human change in that. So really powerful if you've got something that you need to get across and make sure that it is word perfect every time. Cool, cool? Sorry, I nerd out about this one. It's good fun. It's like once you get into this, you're like, oh, I can take that out of my world and I could not do that anymore, and then I could just make a phone call. All right, so can I show you how this actually applies so you can see the results when you compound these? Would that be okay? Cool, cool. So let's run a campaign. Now the campaign itself is irrelevant in this instance, but we ran a campaign and it gave us 100 leads. So 100 people called us, emailed us, or turned up us at our door and said, I need what you're doing. Now our conversion's great, we're jets, we've got everything's humming, we did 80% conversion on that. So if my maths is correct, that's 80 customers. Everyone good on that? I haven't got this wrong yet because I used the spreadsheet in the back of this, but I could be wrong now. Okay, so on average they spend $100 with me and they'll buy 3 times from me before they move on to another thing or my service is no longer relevant to them. That means from that campaign, our turnover was $24,000. Is that making sense to everyone? I'm not being patronising, I'm just making sure that, because numbers on screens sometimes don't resonate with people. Now, our profit margin is 30%, so our total profit out of that campaign is $7,200. Everyone happy with those numbers on that one? Great. Let's have a look at what happens if we make some incremental changes. And this is why I'm talking about finding the impact points. So the bold ones are the actual impact points, so when we target them. Now, who thinks an incremental change is achievable? Like just making a number of percent changes to things. I'm not talking let's get 100% better at what we did, let's get 10% better at what we did. We'll just use that as a round number because maths isn't my strong suit. Great. So we improve our lead generation content that we put out. We get 10% more people. We've got 110 people now. We get 10% better at our conversion by telling people what they need to hear when they need to hear it. Now we're at 88%. Now we've got 96.8 customers rather than 80. That's pretty good. Let's get them to spend 10% more by offering them an add-on that is actually relevant to what they just bought. Now we've got a $110 sale and they're going to stay a little bit longer, on average 3.3, because we'll follow up, we'll send them messages, we'll remind them on their birthday, we'll send them personalised messages to keep them engaged, so 3.3. Our turnover for that same campaign is now $35,000. And then when we get a little bit more efficient in the nerd stuff down the bottom that excites me, 33%, we get 161% increase on our 161% increase. So that's a pretty powerful way. That's the compounding effect. So what I talk about here is that impact points are really important. We should focus on them and we should develop a strategy that applies what we're doing across all of the areas, because then we don't put all our eggs in one basket. We just improve our overall system and everything flows together. And it gives you that compounding effect. So let me just show you something of the handsome gentleman on the next screen after I click through all of these again. Does anyone have any questions about that before I move on? Does it make sense? Now if you put 2% in all of those changes, it's still compounding, and 1%, but who thinks in here they couldn't be 1% better at something? Just with a little bit more effort or a little bit more thought. So just put 1% in all of those, you still get a great compounding effect at the end. I'm going to play something for you and then I'm going to talk to you about the next piece after this.
My name's Mark Lawler. I'm the principal real estate agent at Richardson and Wrench Real Estate at Coolum. Well, the first thing Shot Imagery did for us was come and do a video of day in the life of me. So it was, Nick sort of followed me for a day doing meeting clients and doing open homes, putting the flags out. It was really good. And I was concerned because I thought how the public going to react with the cameraman there, and he just faded into the background and he really captured the essence of what we're trying to do with our real estate business. Well, the return on the investment is going to be probably tenfold. I really do think so. We'll put the finished product on our website, on our Facebook, YouTube. The content, it just elevates your status, and video is what everyone's clicking on. It's what they want to see.
So let me use this one as a little bit of an example. There's a piece of content I'm going to show you after this, but I'm going to talk a little bit about why the content was created and what the purpose of it was. So the concern was trust. People want to build more trust. You're about to sell a home. Do you just let any random person who's walking around on the street do that? No. So you want to build trust with them. You want to understand who this person is. You want to understand that you can trust probably the biggest purchase you make in your entire life, or the biggest asset you own. You want to trust that person. You want to know they're local. You want to know they know the area. I don't want to buy from someone who lives in another suburb because they prefer that one, but they sell in this one. That's not the people I want to sell my home through. I want people who know the space. And I want to show them the demographic that they can resonate with. Now, this isn't always entirely true, and everyone goes, but my product is really general. I understand that, that's cool. And you've got an ideal sweet spot in that audience. If people can see themselves in that audience, they will go, that's me. He's my people because they're my people, so I can work in this community. So it was about building trust and rapport and addressing some of the issues. So let me play you one little piece that flows on from that one. Well, my clicker is not working well today. Yep. Just to the next video.
My name's Mark Lawler. I'm the
Next one. Press it once more.
My name's Mark Lawler.
Press it once more.
We were on the market for 3 months with a previous agent, found that very frustrating and a little disappointed that we didn't get a good result. So we checked around and we saw Mark Rawler at Richardson and Wrench seemed to be doing a good job in Column and had an understanding of the market, and we went to have a chat to him. We liked his style, we liked his understanding of the market, and we felt very comfortable with him. And so we did a whole round of new photographs. Photographs were fantastic and certainly picked up the essence of the home and the way that it feels. So we were thrilled with that result and went on the market, first open on the Saturday, and we had a contract by the Saturday evening. So we were very happy. It's quite exciting when the sticky sold sign goes up that day, and it was so soon. We were really thrilled and really happy that Mark had come through with everything he said that he could do. He did achieve, and I would not hesitate in a heartbeat to recommend Mark Rawler and Richardson and Wrench.
Cool. So there's a couple of things going on in that film. It's about showing how warm and friendly does he look. He looks like your trusted dad, doesn't he? So you feel comfortable with him, and that's the look we wanted because he's a lovely guy and he's got a great rapport with the people he works with. But we need other people to see that so they trust him before they even pick up the phone, because the phone's really impersonal. The audience you saw that he was talking to in there are his ideal sellers in that area, so we want to show them. There are a couple of interesting things happening. So that's a lead generation sort of tool. Primarily, it's to build that first level of trust. But there's a few things happening in that work towards conversion rate. Now, they're addressing a few things. He's got a particular desire about how his photos look and his video when he does it for the homes. So you see they mentioned he got it all redone. So he's positioning that next audience that we're going to do it my way. You can't just hire who you want because that's how I get results for you. But it's a subtle positioning, but we're preparing them for that information that, great, we're going to use my people because my people know how to sell with me. And then we show all that warm and friendly because that's what we were building ideally in that. So let's run that through on what that looks like with a campaign, and I'll show you how that might impact on the results. So this is based on industry sort of numbers that are fairly close to what it would be. This isn't the actual numbers from this client, right? So they run a standard email campaign. They get a really low open rate, and not many people need to sell the house, but they get 3 leads who want to sell a house with them. So we've got 3. The conversion rate's 34%, so one of those people will become a customer. Let's say the average dollar sale, the commission they make off that's $30,000. We just keep the numbers nice and even, and we've already discussed that they're going to sell that house twice in the lifetime of that customer. Now it might be 14 years later, but that customer from that win will stay with them for 2 sales. So the total turnover from that campaign, $61,000. All the numbers kind of making sense there? And the margin, let's call it 30%, so their profit $18,360. Okay? Let's have a look. Now this campaign was designed to do one thing, which was lead generation. So by adding some more content that gets people to open the email, and we spoke about 2 to 3 times more opening. Now when you put it into the nicely formatted HTML coded emails that have a play button, so we get 300% more. So now we've got 9 leads We did a bit of improvement on the conversion rate because we addressed a bunch of the issues that we knew people had. So some of the resistances were, do I trust this person? Are they my people? Do they live in the area? So the conversion rate improves here. We actually got a fairly good improvement on conversion rate. So when we run the numbers down all the way to the bottom, that's a compounding 388%. Now we haven't addressed any of these other issues because the video was tailored to solve one particular problem. And that's important. When we spread the message out and try to do too many things, we overwhelm people. Typically, so I did my thesis on the cognitive load of people under high stress environments working with the firefighters. 3 to 5 things at once, absolute max. 5 things and you are a superstar. If you can be managing 5 different things going on at once, you're a superstar. 3 is pretty normal. How many things do you think people are doing while they're watching that video? They're probably driving their car, looking after one of their kids and eating a McDonald's burger. So where do you rank in that priority? I'm being a little bit dramatic, but you want to make sure that we're not bombing them with too much information, which is why we want to use visual stimulus as much as we can, because at a subconscious level they're feeling it rather than having to think it. And then their brain is doing that as a byproduct. Right. So we'll talk a little bit about how you do the campaign specifically to those areas. I'll just play you one more and talk about another campaign.
Hi, my name is Kristen Bidler. I work at IC3 Solutions. We're a social media marketing agency who specialise in Facebook and Instagram advertising. Shot Imagery create video content for our clients and for their social media advertising. One of the things that we love about working with Shot Imagery is that they have a unique skill and ability to get across the brand message and personality. Each time they really nail that so that when the information and the videos are created and the advertising goes out there, we can target a very specific audience and know that we're going to get a great return. With the help of Shot Imagery, we're seeing about a 400% return on investment each month. We are so happy with the work that comes out of Shot Imagery, and we will continue to refer them to all our clients forevermore.
Now I don't play that to actually tell you about us, but I want to use that as a point to explain social proof is the most important aspect of telling a story. Who do you think sells your product better? Someone you pay to talk on your behalf, or someone who actually paid for your services and is then willing to speak on behalf of your business? This one? Kristen is a client of ours, and she's willing to say nice things about us because she genuinely believes it, and she gets a return on her investment. This isn't a sales plug for us. This is like, when you're talking, you want to be using social proof for your businesses, because people who are willing to speak on your behalf are your ideal people to do that for you. And someone who parts with their own hard-earned money, time, or resources, they're your people to speak, because that's trust. Never, ever, ever fake a testimonial. It will be the end of your business when people will feel it. They'll know when it's not right. It won't be correct. So always genuine messages. Is that more believable to you sitting here in this room than if I got all the words and transcribed them and put them up on the screen of what she said? There's no anonymity to her putting her face there and speaking on as a person. She's putting her reputation on the line of her personal trustworthiness. But that's a really powerful thing to think about. Okay, just play you one more and I'll talk about this one. Just going to turn the aircon down a little bit. Is everyone getting a bit warm? "15-second Facebook ad," that piece there. I'm going to talk about I've got the actual numbers for this campaign from this client, and I'll talk to you about what that actually looked like. There are a few key things occurring in that. It's showing a person on stage presenting. We're addressing that he has the room's attention, which means he should have your attention. We're showing a bunch of people asking questions. We're showing people engaged and actively involved in the process. And there are a couple of words that flash up. I can't remember which one that is. There are a few variations we did. We did some split A/B testing on their Facebook. But it was like marketing, cash flow, wealth. These are the messages that someone going to a business coach resonates with. Now, he does much, much more than that, but they're the ones that get you in the door. And then they start looking at all the real optimization of your business. But you've got to catch their attention with what your audience believes your offering is. So that 15-second clip went into a campaign. The campaign had been running for several years on Facebook. It was pretty well optimized. The copy didn't change. The ad spend didn't change. The demographic didn't change. All that changed in that ad campaign was the 15-second film that went in the front. Let me show you what it did to that campaign. Now on this one, I'll point out which numbers are actual numbers from the client, and I'll point out which ones are industry estimations, as in revenues. Okay, so the leads are actual numbers from the clients. The conversion rate is an industry estimate. Actually, the actual number is leads, and the percentage change on the margin is actual from them, but I don't know their actual margin, just so we're clear about that, because these are real numbers from a client. So they run a campaign to get people into a workshop, basically, which are their leveraging tool into coaching with them. The campaign would typically put 30 people in a room for each campaign they ran based on that ad spend. 20% of those people would become customers or coaching clients, so it's 6 of them. $15,000 a year for coaching. They'd stay for 2 years worth of coaching. So for that campaign, it was worth $180,000 above the line total turnover to him. 30% margin, $54,000. Okay. Let me show you the actual numbers of what that 15-second piece did for them. They put 200 bums on seats off that same campaign. Nothing else changed. This is an exceptional one. I'm not saying everyone will always get this. This is an exceptional change, but this is what it did. So they saw an increase of 667% on the engagement and final take-up on that offer. Now, nothing else changed except that they improved their margin a little bit by doing some lead-in and lead-out video content, which helped position all these people before they turned up and after they were there, which saved a lot of time for the phone calls that were happening from his team. So the overall output, 733% improvement. Now, just remind, that number is actually from the client, and the percentage increase in margin is from the client. The rest are based on the industry standards, just so we're really clear that what's real. But that's pretty cool, 733%. Now that's right at the top end of an amazing outcome. We did some split testing with those videos, so we created a couple of 15-second videos that had different words in them. We ran them through Facebook and found which one was getting more engagement, and then pushed all of the revenue spend onto that one. So it was a properly run campaign, but that's a pretty good result. Does everyone agree? Focused on one thing, lead generation, with a little bit of improvement just to their margins by some separate content, but the two work together. All right, so this is where I'd just remind you, a video should be created to address a specific impact point. Again, I keep using military analogies because they make sense. A sniper uses one bullet and puts it on one target. If I try to solve that problem with a shotgun, I'm wasting all these pellets and I may not knock the target down. So let's make sure we're focused on that. Let's address all our energy. Let's address our marketing campaign and our push onto that one thing we want to fix. And now I'm going to contradict myself because everything in life is a contradiction. And a video may address multiple. So you see in the first one with Mark, the real estate agent, there were a few things we were doing. There was a bit of positioning occurring in there, so a bit of conversion rate work. That's a byproduct, which is okay, but it's not my primary focus, and I didn't deliberately do that to tweak that. It's just in delivering the message I needed in lead generation, it also serves to do some conversion work. That make sense, everyone? So it's really about focusing your attention on one spot to make sure you get maximum value. If I want to push through that wall, and I do it across the whole wall, I'm going to be working my bum off all day. If I just focus on one area, I'll get a hole through that wall and I can work my way through.
When you worked at the real estate agent, did he understand what he was looking to achieve, or did you sort of, after you drew that out of him and sort of helped him with what you shaped it?
So everyone we work with knows the answers to the questions because it's their business. We ask the right questions to help them find what they want to talk about. So that's the difference. We don't give them the answers ever. Yeah. It's always because they're the experts.
That's my husband.
Ah, there you go.
And yes, Nick is very good at asking right questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's very good at making you feel comfortable in front of the camera, because my husband is not comfortable in front of the camera, and it comes across.
Oh, I thought it
like,
came across.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, that's right. So
There's a lot of
Nick
real estate agents
and his
that
team are really
So the answer to your question is we ask the right questions, and every person who runs their own business knows what the answers are, because I'm not a real estate agent. I don't run a cafe, I don't run a corporate business. Like, that's not what I do, but I know what the questions are to ask to help you find who. We'll talk a bit about customer, and then that'll answer a few more questions if we can move on to that. Did that adequately answer your question before we move on? All right, cool. Okay, so quick one. Thank you for leading me into that. Here's your audience. So who is your target market? This is really, really, really critical. And I'll give you a really crazy analogy. It's like, if someone speaks Chinese and I speak to them in English, are they going to buy from you? No. Now that's wildly on the far right of the possibilities, but it's the same thing. If we don't know who they are and how to communicate with them, we will never engage correctly with them as an audience. So how old are they? What are their goals and aspirations? This is where are they going in their life? What are we contributing to their end goal? How are we contributing to that? Where do they shop? Like, are they online, physicals? How much do they spend? Because are they your people? Like, if they don't spend enough, your product might be too expensive for them, or it might be too cheap for them, and then you've got your own concerns about how you get them to engage with it. And how do they communicate? And by how do they communicate, I actually mean, like, what platforms are they on? So is it Messenger, is it text messages, is it in person, do they still write letters? Can you still do that? Do they still have stamps on things? And what language do they use? And I don't mean the literal one I was speaking about before, like Mandarin English. I actually mean, what are the words that resonate with that audience that drive their goals and aspirations? So what are the things that they go, I need that in my life. That is the thing that's going to solve my biggest single problem. All right? Okay, so let's go clicker. We're going to take 2 minutes here again to have a look at these two things. Choosing an impact point, the one that you think is most important to your business right now. So if you could fix one thing right now, and I don't say fix as in broken, I mean if you could improve one thing that would make your business really hum, what would it be? So it was lead generation, it was conversion rate, average dollar sale, number of transactions or margin. Which one of those would you pick to focus on right now? There's no right or wrong answer, it's just you'll know which one would give you the best outcome. And the second one, I'd like you to just write a little blurb about who your target market is. One paragraph or a few dot points. How old are they? What do they need from you? What do they spend on? Where do they live? If you've got questions, if you want to ask me, we do this a lot. So if you want to give me what your job is and you're really, really lost, just hit me up and let's talk about who I think that might be for you, just to get the juices kind of flowing, because that's what we do. We often find that we ask people, they go, I have no idea who my client base is. I say, what do you do? And we start going, are they possibly someone who looks like this? Do they do these types of things? Now it just gets the ball kind of rolling. So let's take a couple of minutes on that one, and then if you've got any questions, please just sing out and we'll... Is anyone wildly lost and need a guide into the deep, dark universe of our audiences? No? Can you have...
Two impact points,
Yeah, so you should always have a primary, like, because you want to focus your attention on that one. You can address some of the issues of the second one, or run them as separate campaigns. So what I'm saying is not, you could actually address all 5 simultaneously, but they need to be separate campaigns that are tied together in a global strategy. What I'm saying there specifically is don't try and use a piece to solve all 5 because there's too many messages you're delivering. So you could address all 5 simultaneously if you wanted to, but keep them as individual components as part of a strategy rather than one piece. Does that make it easier to work out which one?
Yeah, it does, because for the 2 different impact points, I probably couldn't do it in one
Yep.
thing at once.
Okay. While you're finishing that, I'll tell you a little bit about how detailed you can go with these audiences. My business has 2 avatars. They're wildly different. They have names, they have pictures. The team I work with know when I say we're going out to see a Steve or a Beck, and they know what Steve and Beck need from us. Steve and Beck want to be communicated with differently. They want different levels of hand-holding through the process. They want different levels of engagement. We wear different clothes when we go to different people. That's this kind of detail because they're looking for something different in their journey. Now, ultimately, what we deliver to them is the same technically piece of content, and we do the same process for each of them, but we do the steps along the way a little bit differently. I use different words, what I wear, how I speak, how I email are all different. So you can have multiple avatars in your business to deal with different people. And when people get the engagement that works for them, they resonate with that more, and it helps build that trust and doesn't put them off. So, and they're wildly different avatars. Cool. All right. Now, you could spend literally a whole day doing this to get as much detail, so we won't spend the whole day because it'll be really, really boring while I stand here and just walk up and down. Plus, you've all probably got jobs to go back to. So we'll leave identify your target market, but feel free to expand on that and develop it as much as you can and give them a real persona so you know exactly who they are and what they need. All right, so let's talk about content that drives action. This is getting into the meat of it. This is where we use that life goals or get in the right direction. So this is where people are heading. This is what they want from their life. And this is how we're going to build content that does that. So this, you guys all ready? Like this equation's really long. It's got a lot of maths in it. It takes a while to write down. Do you want me to share my proven equation for how to deliver results with video? No one? No one? Just one person. Okay. Jeez, tough crowd in here today. Okay, so this is it. It's really, really complicated. It's when desire is greater than resistance, the outcome is action. So when someone wants something more than the roadblocks in front of them, they'll do it. This isn't a formula for video or content only. This is a formula for communication with other human beings on this planet. It works on my 3-year-old sometimes. Sometimes. What do I mean? I mean when someone wants something and you take the roadblocks away, they'll do it. Okay, so what does that look like? I'm going to give you 2 examples at sort of different ends of the spectrum a little bit. I'm going to use the pen example again. My desire is to sign my home loan, for example. I need a pen. Do I actually care about the pen? No, I need to sign my home loan. My desire is to sign this contract to finish this deal. I can walk into Safeway, Woolworths, Coles, a newsagent and buy a $1 pen. There's not much resistance there. It's really, really easy. Like geographically, they're close to me in multiple locations. The investment is low. The resistances put in front of me to do that are very, very low. So I will do that easily. What about if it's more complicated? So I really, really, really want a Ferrari. I really, really, really can't afford a Ferrari. So the resistance in that instance, there's a couple of resistances that occur there. There's resistances from financial, there's an investment level resistance. There's a resistance in geographically where you can go to actually look at that vehicle because stores aren't just on every corner. There's even a resistance that some of the models I want to buy, I have to have already owned a different type of Ferrari before I can even buy that Ferrari. So I've put resistances in place. So to buy this Ferrari, you have to have owned one of these Ferraris before because I won't sell you that. No, I literally don't. I do not care about cars one little bit, but it resonates. A lot of people kind of go, that's a really expensive vehicle, it just makes sense. And home is part of our desire, so it's kind of something that we're going to make happen. So the resistances fall away because our desire is so strong for that home, but something that is a material object that we really want, but we don't actually And I'll be careful to define people's need, but don't really need, that's why I use it as an example, because it's a bit of a wild one. So what are those resistances? It's those pieces, and how do I overcome them to get action? Now I'm going to talk just quickly about this in terms of another example and how you might address a message to someone. So I'm going to say Kim Kardashian was seen out wearing a pair of high-end sports tights, because that's what you wear everywhere these days apparently. So $1,000 a pair, something fancy about them. They've got a little logo on the ankle or something, I don't know. But now that Kim's been seen in them, everyone wants to buy them. Do you think that the audience who watches Kim Kardashian's feed has the resources that she does? What percentage do you think of her followers can actually live the life she lives? 0.00001%? Great. So lots of people watching her desire what she does but can't have it. So the resistance in this instance, and it's not always, but it's financial. It may also be access. So let's call it financial and access. So getting these tights because they're limited edition and it's financial. So if I was a person running a business selling those tights, now I'm going to do two things. This is an opportunity. So this is where curated content is not my answer. So I'm not going to build a fancy campaign for this because time is ticking. This is where I'm going to use immediate content. I'm going to get on Facebook stories and Insta stories, and I'm just going to plow this message out quickly myself, because it doesn't matter about the quality at this stage, it's about the message. Hey, it's Nick here at Tights R Us. I've got 15 pairs of Kim's latest pair of tights and they're in stock right now. These things sell for $1,000. I've got 10 pairs. If you want to buy them right now, I've got an easy payment plan. You pay $10 a week for 100 weeks. Don't do maths in public. For 100 weeks, and you can get them right now. You can ship them to you anywhere in Australia by express post and you'll have them tomorrow. So you can be wearing the same tights Kim's wearing right now in her feed tomorrow. Jump on, pay them online, we'll get them out to you. Instant content. Desire. You want to be like Kim. Sorry, not you. They want to be like Kim, okay? I've overcome the resistances. I've got them and I can get them to you. You don't need to come to me. And I know that the investment is too high for most of the audience who wants that, and I've given you a solution to that problem. I've just solved their resistance issue. I now have no resistance and they'll take action and buy. You can apply that to any conversation with anyone, and I would challenge to say, if you're not thinking what are the things that are going to stop someone from finishing this sale, then you're letting things walk out the door that probably shouldn't have. Because your job is to help them get to the end, because you've all told me before that you're offering great value products and services that are helping change the world and make people's lives better. So it is your obligation to help them get to the end because you're making their life better. And if you don't believe that, you're probably in the wrong line of work. I'll get off my soapbox now. Cool. Does that make sense to everyone? I use that in all of my communication when I'm talking to people. It's not a tactic. It's just, what do you want from me that I can give you? And what are the things that are going to stop you from engaging me to deliver that service to you? And how can I help you overcome those resistances? How can I make it easier for you? So that's the equation. Super complicated. No? Cool. All right. Everyone happy with that? Yeah. Anyone think they could use that on a 3-year-old? It works sometimes. All right. And if they don't take action, you'll get no results. So if you don't lower that resistance, you will get nowhere with that transaction, whether it's emotional, financial, resource, whatever it is. All right. Just to reiterate that point. Okay, quickly let's go through this activity. So this little one here is desire and resistance. So I just gave you some examples of what desire and resistance might be. So why do people desire your product? That's the first little one. What stops them? What are the resistances that stop them being a customer? And what action do you ultimately want them to take? Now I'm just going to throw a spanner in the works for 1 minute here. Why do people desire your product? It's probably a layer deeper than you think it is. Okay, so let's go back to my hairdresser example. It's not actually, I don't actually desire your product for a haircut. That's not the end game. I desire that service to make me feel more confident in my own skin to represent me as who I am, because that empowers me to make other decisions. You see what I mean? If you go one layer back, there's a depth to what we do. And if you want to ask a specific question about this, this is literally how we drill into businesses. So if you think you haven't got one, ask me and we'll see if we can find something for you. So we'll just take 1 minute to... Yeah. There's the hum just from the internal system. How's everyone going? Is anyone struggling with that or?
No, we're just brainstorming.
No problems. Yeah. This is another good one to spend a little bit of time coming back to, because it can be quite complicated. A lot of times people, the first resistance that come to mind is financial. And I think it's my belief that often financial one is something that we self-impose, and it's not actually what other people always come to. Like their resistance might be, you're too far away. This is the Sunshine Coast. No one drives more than 12 minutes to get anywhere. So if you have an office in Caloundra and someone's in Maroochydore, they're like, I don't care if he's going to solve every problem in my life, I'm not going to Caloundra. It's too far away. That's 3 minutes more than I will drive, and I'm not doing that. And I'm being a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but that might actually be the resistance. So what's the solution there? Well, the solution might be, you know what? I sell a product that is high enough in value that I'm going to drive to you because you need my product and I'm going to solve that problem for you. So when you drill a little bit deeper and work out what the actual resistances are, you can front load them and you can solve them before they actually become problems. And the really powerful part of that, like we spoke about lead generation and conversion, what about all the people who never became leads? How do you even measure that? You can't. And I'll tell you a scary thing. So my wife and I are very, very different. A few people are laughing in the room. I believe there are two types of people in this world for how they address engagement with another business. There's people like me. I don't know what the statistical breakdown is, but there's people like me. If I look at your website and I don't see the service that I need from you, I assume that you don't offer that. I don't pick up the phone, call you and go, hey, I notice your website doesn't list accounting X, Y, and Z and I need that. Can you do that? I just go, cool, not my guy or not my girl, and I move on. My wife will pick up the phone and go, I need these things. Can you do it? Oh, no, you can't. Great. Can you add that to your system? Could you do that by the time I come in to see you this afternoon? Could you add that? So she'll ask. Now the thing is, what about all the people who left because there was a resistance and never became a customer? Now we can't measure this. I don't know how to do it. If you figure it out, let me know, because it'd be a great metric to have. But what if we can address all the resistances that we can think of up front, so that when they see that content from us in the initial engagements, we address conscious and subconscious concerns as early as possible, and we get more customers because they don't walk away. Now I'm going to just draw a line and say 50% of the population probably does it the way I am, and there's probably people, sorry, I'm going to ask in the room. Who's the sort of person who just makes an assumption based on what they've been given? No one? 1, 2, 3, some. So there's some people in the room. Even in this room, we've got a split. So what about the customers we lose just because we didn't address resistances early? So that's why I'm saying spend a bit of time on this, because you can probably get more people. All right, what must your video contain? And this is based on getting a best return on investment. This is based on studies done by anthropologists of every story that exists in human language. Now, it's not one anthropologist who went through every story that exists in human language. No one has that much time. But it's an accumulation of this. And so what they've done is they've looked at all the stories that the audience has, so we need to appeal to it. It's that new home. It's those sweet Kim Kardashian tights. It's whatever it is that they need, but it's that deeper desire. So I don't need a new home. I don't need a house. I need a home and a lifestyle in a location. That's what I'm actually after. Geographically, where I put the walls are almost irrelevant, but what am I looking for as that part of that community? How do we appeal to those desires? And this is really, really important. I know I've said that about a bunch of things, but the audience is the hero. We collectively, as service or product providers, are not the heroes. We're enablers on their hero's journey. So they're on a journey towards that life goal. We're helping them get there. We're the little green Yodas to the Luke Skywalkers, for the people who that analogy means something. We're helping them get to where they're going. And if we try to sell ourselves as the hero, we make them subordinate to us, which is not, we don't want to be in a power play with them. We actually want to be enabling them. So we want to keep them above us. So the hook must attract their attention, address their desires, and set them as the hero and show them that we're going to take them on this journey and solve a problem for them. The next step is, strangely, the journey. And we're offering solutions and outcomes that they desire. So we're telling them how this will happen, how this will work for them. And in this step, we're overcoming resistance. So we've already attracted them. So here's the desire. Now we're addressing the resistances. So we're doing that as part of the journey. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to solve your problems. And these are the things that will get in your way, and this is how I'm going to make it easy for you. And we're establishing trust and rapport at this stage. Because who's heard the phrase know, like, trust? It gets thrown around a ton. Know, like, trust. If you don't know, like, and trust the person you're doing business with, you probably won't do business with them. So it's during this phase that we're developing know, like, trust. Now, the depth of know, like, trust is directly proportional to the level of investment you're requesting from your client. If you're selling a $1 Bic pen, they don't need to know, like, or trust you very much. If you're selling them a home, they need to know, like, and trust you a lot, because you're dealing with a huge investment for that person. And finally, the jab. This clicker's going to go for a flying lesson in a minute. The jab. This is basically the final piece of every story. It's asking the audience to take action. And in this one, we summarise it as well. So we tell them why they desired the product, and we address the resistances again here, just to remind them of how we're going to solve all the problems in a really succinct way. Some people refer to this as an arc of a story, like taking them on the journey. But it's like, this is what you need, this is how we're going to do it for you. anyone struggling with hook, journey, jab and want some prompts or just...
There's a lot in that.
Oh, there's tons in that. It's a huge thing. What the purpose of this one is to kind of get down the real bones of it, just so that you can go and flesh it out later and make sure that you can sort of understand. Start to wrap up there on that one. Sorry, I didn't warn you that when you leave here I've basically generated a heap of homework for you to do, but we've given you all the bones of it. So, but if I wrote that on the workshop invitation, like no one would turn up. They'd be, I'm not doing homework. I left school years ago. So yeah, it's a terrible hook. So I wouldn't use it as a lead-in. Now the resistance I'd need to overcome in there, if I did put it in, would be explaining to you why it was important that there was homework. And the primary thing would be that to deliver maximum value in terms of time while you're in this room, so that we can cover as much as possible so that you can take it away and continue afterwards. So if I did want to address that be open about that up front, then the resistance would be about addressing how much time you spend in this room. So we could spend longer in this room, but that's not valuable use of your time most likely, when you can now fit that into any time in your life if you choose to afterwards. That was a good one. Thanks for that. On the fly. Tap dance. Let's have a talk a little bit about your audience's journey and building relationship. So this is a sales funnel here. Everyone's familiar with the typical sales funnel model. You pull a whole heap of people in at the top, you spit out your number of customers at the bottom. So what this looks like broadly, and this is a big generalization, but we've got a cold audience who becomes a warm audience and a hot audience, and eventually once they're a hot audience we can convert them into a client. I'm going to take a little bit of time to talk about what that content is that we do at those different stages, because what are we trying to do at each of those phases of their customer journey. So our awareness stage is when we first engage that prospect. And it's content that's relatable and explains the core values and key brand benefits. So we need to address quickly what the hook needs to still draw them into their desire, but we need to be showing how we're going to solve that problem for them, that we're a trustworthy brand, that we're likable, know, like, trust. So we're doing that in that awareness phase. We've got to draw enough trust from them to continue in the process. The next one's really, it's interest, so they're warm. So they like us and they like what we're offering, and now we've got to develop more interest. So we're actually creating content that shows them that the brand's right for them, and talking a little bit more about the solution. So this is where we're really getting deeper into the solution, because they're interested at this stage. We're telling them more about how it actually works. So this becomes more of the bones of, this is the problem set and this is how we're going to fix it for you in this interest phase. Next one's evaluation. So this is where someone's just said, I like what I'm seeing, I need this in my life, the resistances have been overcome primarily for me, you know, I'm just making that final last little step and I'm ready to take the plunge almost. I just need a few little kicks to get me over the line. And in this one, you're reinforcing the brand's qualities and the benefits. And this is where social proof can be really, really powerful at this stage. So I'm aware of the product, I trust the brand, I know who it is, I can see the solution you're offering me, I'm interested in it, I understand how it works. Now a couple of people say to me, this product is amazing. This product solved all of my problems, this is what it did for me, these were the outcomes I got, and this is how it all worked for me. And that's helping me in my evaluation phase to become a client ultimately. Then ultimately down here we do a decision, and we call them to action to take a hard action, which is to become a client, and then we move them into the final stage of the funnel, and there is still a content model in that stage as well. Like once they go from being a lead to a customer, they're not done. Like very few businesses let go at that point and there's no further interaction. So there's a whole model of managing them beyond that point, but the funnel starts to open up again the other way. And so down in here we do our onboarding and our welcomes, our brand loyalty and customer development. So we're helping, they're the types of content we're creating through that model. So the important thing while we're talking about this is that once we're up here at that initial contact, we've got really low brand loyalty. We also importantly haven't earned the right to take the most important thing they have, which is their time. So we need to keep our messages as short as possible in those first engagements. We want to be really concise and only deliver what they need to hear. Someone says, well, what's the length? I said, how long's a piece of string? It depends on the brand. So it might be you've got 5 seconds. It might be you've got 5 minutes. Depends on who they are and what they're looking for from you, but it's going to be the shortest piece of content you probably create because you've got to build that trust and move them through. Once you get down here, you've got high brand loyalty, and they'll invest more time to continue to learn about who you are and what you do. They're invested in the process. They're part of the family of your business at that point. That kind of makes sense. So awareness, interest, evaluation, decision. So we've got our hard call to action here. So each of these might have a soft call to action, inviting them to learn more about a topic. We might be taking them through sales funnels. So we might find that they're after something and moving them off into different sales funnels. This is just a very generalized overview. You can have very complicated flows of sales through these, but ultimately then we get them to a decision and then into a client. So what does that look like for a video content model? Well, it's almost the opposite triangle. So at the top of our sales funnel, which is our black triangle here, we're getting a lot of people in, but we're using a really specific piece of content to drive that initial engagement. So we're being really specific about what the message is, that hook, and we're targeting a chunk of our audience, and we're getting as many of them interested at that point as possible. So we're capturing as much as we can. As they flow down through awareness and interest, we develop more content that takes them on the rest of the journey through the sales funnel. So we give them more offerings that continue to reinforce the brand awareness and the solution we're offering here. Then in evaluation, we give them some more options to watch of social proof, some examples of our work being used, case studies. Then we get them down to decision. We invite them to take action with a bunch of different pieces of content. Now, they might be splitting off into these, and the decision we're offering them a couple of different decisions at this point so they can become a client. And then once they're a client, we've got a repertoire of content in our library, which is our onboarding, our preparation, our birthday messages, all that sort of stuff. So our pyramid kind of expands out. Now, we spoke about what every story has, being a hook, a journey, and a jab. Every effective story for driving some action. Ultimately, our strategy needs to do the same. A hook, a journey, and a jab. So up here, this piece of content here, this is our hook content for our strategy. And down the bottom here, these pieces are our jab content for our strategy. But each one will have a hook, journey, and jab in it. But ultimately, this one's primary purpose is hook. These pieces of content down here, their primary purpose is jab. And we have to have hook, journey, and jab in those to keep people engaged. Does that make sense? I know we're using a lot of the same terminology, but I want you to see how each piece is part of a strategy, and they flow together, and they're all trying to achieve an outcome, which is get the attention, convert them to customers, keep them as customers for as long as we can. So at the top here, typically, generalizations. Production value is higher on those first pieces of content because that's people's first impression of us. The duration is typically shorter. As we get down to the bottom end, production value is lower and duration can be longer. Now, I want to be really clear, production value doesn't mean quality. And quality is the content you're delivering, not the amount of money you're spending or the quality of the vision. It's like what's in the content. Through this whole thing, we should be delivering quality content, as in solving problems for people and delivering solutions and answers, but we can just do it at a lower budget. So I just want to be clear that lower production value doesn't mean just rubbish. Like we shouldn't ever be creating content that is just rubbish because that's not solving anyone's problem. That kind of makes sense. A hook, a journey and jab as an overall strategy, and then each piece of that strategy has the same piece of content. I think we're trying to save the environment by not keeping the aircon on cold. 24 zip, sorry. Okay. Now the depth of this model is dependent on the investment you're asking. So this might be, you might have 15 pieces of content if you're BHP and you're trying to get someone to buy a branch of your business. Like that could be huge because you're taking people on this huge customer journey. If you're selling a pen, your whole strategy might be one piece of content. So it kind of expands and contracts depending on the level of investment that people need. Investment could be time or money. So that's a generalisation of the overview. Your hot might be really deep, or your medium might be really deep, or your awareness might be really deep because you need to capture a lot of awareness, but then the following processes once you get people into your sales funnel are really quick. It just depends on each business. All right. So writing down a couple more points for more homework. You guys are going to hate me by the end of this. Where are your audience touch points? And I mean, how are you engaging with them at those levels of your sales funnel? So where are the points that you actually engage from the first lead generated to them actually becoming a customer? And if you just write dot points about that. And that's important because each one of those is an area to address resistances and desire. The next one is where in your sales funnel are there points of resistance? So where, from your experience running your business, where are the bits where people get confused, stall, or back out? That's an area where you'd want to be focusing some attention on solving that problem for me, and content like this might be a good solution. And finally, how are you making the journey easy for your audience? And that kind of ties in with the second point about solving those problems for them. You thought the last one was a long question. That's all right. All right, we won't linger on that one too much longer because that one's another huge one for your homework. What do I do with my clicker?
Can I just ask,
Yeah.
can you just tell me again what you mean by touch point?
Yeah, sure. So in your sales funnel, where are the processes where you engage with your clients. What sort of work are you in?
I own a restaurant.
Yep, perfect. So let me think about how that might be. So the touch points might be, say for an event someone's going to call, they might call up the first time, then you do a follow-up to take payment, then you do a follow-up to make sure they're actually going to turn up. So each one of those would be a touch point with that customer. For a typical diner coming in, you might take a booking and then follow up to make sure they're actually going to be there. So you might only have 2, or you might have no touch points in terms of bookings and things, and your first touch point is actually when they walk in and ask for a table.
That point of communication.
Yeah, it's any point of communication that you have with your audience where it could be a problem. So your touch points might be more specific in your business, and it might be maitre d' and waiter at the table, and each of those is a touch point. Now they might be content specific, but they're things to think about where you're engaging with your client. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No worries. Keeps me on my toes when people just like tell me their business up front. I'm like, oh, geez. Cool. All right, so we're almost done. I'm just going to show you some things about digital platforms that are important to know so that you've got some understanding about using the video content in that order. So platforms, these are probably the big ones in Australia: LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Insta, and Facebook. There are more, but they're probably the primary ones. The audience that hangs out on each of those is different. You need to know who they are and where they are. Like the people on Instagram who are buying a certain product type will not be hanging out on LinkedIn. The people on LinkedIn, you will never get them interested in what you're doing by hitting them on Facebook. They'll probably be on Facebook, but they'll be there to hang out with their friends and family and won't be interested in being marketed to. Although I say that, and you don't market to anyone on LinkedIn because no one wants to be marketed to, they just want to learn on LinkedIn. So there's a whole heap of things to consider. I'm not going to teach you everything there is to know about every platform today, but I just want you to say to you, consider which platform is right for engaging your audience. Work on that platform. 80% of people would rather watch a video than read a blog. That still leaves 20% of people who want to read a blog though, which is a fifth of your potential audience reach. What's the solution? Whatever you put in the video, write in the blog as well, put them both out and make it easy. For the lazy people, they'll watch the video. The lazy or the busy, doesn't matter which way you use the word, but give them both options.
So on videos, it's good to do subtitles?
It is 100% necessary to do subtitles, and I'll come to that in 1 second. Greater than 69% of digital media engagement is on mobile devices, which means they're looking at it on a tiny device. So if your stuff isn't optimized or your video isn't optimized for that platform, or you've got too much detail in it, you're giving away audience reaction because they're not going to be able to see it. Aspect ratios, 1:0.9, 1:1, 16:9, 1:1, 4:5, 2:3, 9:16, like the list goes on and on. Just be aware the platform requirements change all the time. When you're going to create content, you can see the value you get from creating in the right aspect ratio. So see how much screen I wasted by being in a widescreen format there? But if I present in a 4:5 or a 2:3, I'm using more real estate. Now, each platform's got its own requirements, but what I'm doing is I'm pushing my competitors off the screen. And I'm gaining the attention for a microsecond of my audience with nothing else distracting them. If I do this, there's a whole heap of other real estate around it with other people's messages and things going in it. So just consider how much screen real estate you're using and what that means for you. 85% of video on Facebook's played without sound because people are watching your videos while they're on the toilet. Or they're at work and should be doing something else and they're not paying attention. Subtitles are really, 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 really important. Because if they like the message, they'll either continue to watch it or they'll then go and turn the sound on when they can. There's a heap of services out there that can do it for you. You can do it with the Facebook auto caption generation. Always go back and check it. Its accuracy level is exceptionally low. But the services like Rev and others are really, really good. Like I transcribed a 62-minute feature film with Rev, and I think, what do we have, 2 errors in it? Yeah, and they were Māori words, so actual New Zealand native words, and it had trouble with those, strangely. Rev, rev.com. It's $1 US a minute to transcribe into captions. Really accurate. So do that. Content's platform specific, so know what platforms you want to work on because the aspect ratios, how long it should go for, all of those things are dependent. And when you give a platform what it wants, it will reward you by giving you more organic reach. When you give them what their audience doesn't want, they will inherently retard your audience reach. Temporary video is still really, really powerful. When is it good? It's good for a couple of things. It's good for that immediate message, like, I've got Kim Kardashian's tights in stock right now, come and get them. Powerful. It's also powerful for people who need to pass on information to their audience quickly and don't need it lingering there. So you're an accountant, they've changed, the government just brought in a new rule, it's going to be enforced sometime soon. You can send that message straight out to your client base. It doesn't matter how pretty it is, it's not going to linger there, but people will see it. It's like, hey, government just changed the rules. If you've got X, Y, and Z in your portfolio, give me a call. We can talk about what this means for you. You could also send that in an email to your client base because you're value adding. Educate or entertain. Do one or the other or both together if you can, if it's appropriate. And 360 and VR is expanding. It's probably not very big here in Australia yet because our bandwidth isn't high enough to really support it, but it'll be coming soon. So just be aware of what's happening in those spaces because there's probably a relevance for your business. And if you're on the front foot of that stuff, you'll get more reach because you will engage with the audience the way they want to be engaged with. So just consider it. We're looking at it. We're not heavily involved in those spaces because they still don't have the market reach we would expect. Embedded versus native, I'll be really quick on this one. This is to do with platforms and what they want. So an embedded video is a video that's hosted somewhere else. So I'm hosting it on YouTube, but I play it on Facebook. So Facebook reaches out and grabs the video from YouTube and plays it. That's not good, as if in Facebook's respect. Facebook will reduce your reach for doing that because you're taking people off their platform. It's like inviting someone to a restaurant, but then sending them next door to just go and pick up part of their meal to another restaurant. So they won't reward you to do that. Now, you might... Sorry?
Not a good touch point.
No. What might happen is you might deliberately do that though because you specifically want to take your audience who's on Facebook and drive them out of Facebook to somewhere else. And you will pay a price for that in terms of your reach. But it may be worthwhile to you to get someone from a place where you have a good reach and good audience and move them to a place you need them for another reason, like you need to expand your YouTube viewers or something like that. Native videos are really, really powerful. Create the video, send it to all the platforms and host it natively as a good default. Generally the same format will work on all of them. Aspect ratios vary though, so there's a few trickies in that, but you'll get more organic reach by hosting natively. That make sense? Think about it in terms of business. They want to keep people on their platform, so you give them what they want, they'll give you more reach. Some final tips for social media use. Pick the platform that your audience is on. If you're on Instagram but all your people are hanging out on LinkedIn, it's not a very good way to communicate because no one who wants to see your message will see it. I say don't over-capitalise on platforms, so don't try and do them all. I don't have enough brain capacity. I've been bumped in the head a lot of times though, so that might just be me. If you can do them all, go for it, but choose the ones that are most relevant to you and invest a bit of time in those. But at the same time, don't put all your eggs in one basket because platforms become socially uncool all of a sudden, and then you could actually have too many people too much invested in one spot. So have a backup would probably be a good option. Stay up to date on platform trends. That's just what do they want to see, what aspect ratios, how long, that kind of stuff. Have a long and short-term strategy for each platform. So you might have a platform that's not super popular, but your long-term strategy might be to turn that into a backup or to target a new market, but you're just building it, and have a short-term strategy that's going to deliver immediate results to you and your business. And engage your audience, which is probably the real key message here. Educate or entertain. Don't be afraid to give heaps of information to people. Know, like, trust. Give heaps. People who are going to engage you don't want to or can't do what you do. So like by teaching them how to do it, it's not necessarily meaning they're never going to work with you. It just means that they're learning to build trust with you, and they'll either work with you because they don't have the time to do it, but they've got the skills, or they'll engage you because they don't have the skills or the time. And the people who go and solve it on their own, cool, you just made the world a better place by helping them do a little bit of stuff. All right, so how are we doing for time? A minute over. We've explored a few things. We've covered why video is powerful, that multi-sensory engagement, how it works together to draw the subconscious out and engage us at an emotional level, why that's powerful. We've spoken about where in the process you'll get the greatest return on investment. That's those 5 impact points: lead generation, conversion rate, average dollar sale, number of transactions, and then finally the margin. So when you choose one of those, that'll have the best return for you. How to build content that drives action. When desire is greater than resistance, you'll get action. Think about that in terms of your model. What do they want? How am I going to make it easy for them? What do I want them to do? What the story should contain. It's the hook, grab their attention with a desire. The journey, explain how we're going to solve the problem for them, overcome any resistances. And the jab, tell them what you want them to do. Remind them of the desire they want, remind them why it's easy to get. Hook, journey, jab. We've taken them on an audience journey from the awareness to interest, and we've taken them down into decision making and ultimately into a customer. We've spoken about how the content stacks in that, how we've got low audience trust at the beginning and we've got high trust at the end, and how we can take them on that journey and show them where they are, delivering a message that resonates with them. And then we've covered some considerations for digital distribution platforms, your social medias, your YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn and such, just really broadly because it's important as part of who your audience is to know those platforms that they're using. So that's what we've covered. Has anyone, I like asking negative questions. Has anyone not learnt something during that time? It's easier because when you do the group thing, everyone kind of just puts their hand up. If you make one person put their hand up, we're like, has anyone not learned? All right, cool. All right, so I hope you've got some value out of that time. I hope you can see that what we've covered is actually much deeper than just video on its own. Like we've really spoken about why video and how to build a message. And I feel like that message can be applied to a heap of things, to the content you write, to the way you engage with people in speaking. And if you apply it to video, you've got a powerful video rather than just video. So that's all I've got for you today. I appreciate your time in sitting in this room. I know it's the most important thing. Thank you again for your time investment. I have one thing for you. To extend on this piece of learning we've done, we're offering everyone in this room to have another hour one-on-one with me. That's obligation free. There's no cost for that. And we'll actually go into a detailed strategy for you to take this from a broad overview and actually make it more specific to your particular business so we can go and nut out the actual details. So if you'd like to do that, please just put your details down the form. We'll be in touch to organise a time. It is my aim to get out and see everyone before the middle of December, if that works for you, because I am going to jump on a plane and go back down to Antarctica for a month to do some filming down there. So I want to get everyone's businesses kind of, it's a great, even if you think you're not ready to do that, I'd say do it. We've had a lot of businesses we talk to. This isn't about us getting work out of it. We actually get a lot of value in giving this out. It helps our community. We help a lot of businesses who are well before the stage of needing a professional service. But what we do is by talking to them, we help to start the process of the creative juices in their mind. And then a year or two down the track, we bump into those same people and they're ready to do it. So it's a really great way to just get the ball rolling. So thank you again for your time. I really appreciate your attention. I know it's been hot and cold in the room. If anyone would like a sandwich or anything before they go, help yourself because Ben and I can't eat it all. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.